we have seen different examples where the applicability of DPDP. Now we will see not only banks and insurance companies, there are multiple areas. So banks, insurance companies, payment gateways, okay, like UPI payments, Phone Pay, Google Pay, there are multiple, Beam, yeah, there are multiple gateways, and lending platforms, okay, and account aggregators, as we just discussed, and non-banking financial corporations, NBFCs, payment aggregators like debit card, credit card payments, wallet providers, wealth tech companies, and fintech startups. So the scope is huge, and the volume of data which is going to be processed at every juncture is huge. It's multifold. So the risk is also very high. So the PAA and its applicability for BFSI and fintech areas is multifold. So these are the covered organizations where DPDP is applicable. So we are talking about this act and rules. So now at high level, if you see, what are the applicable sections and what are the key regulatory requirements as per this act? That is what our context and focus. So there are 6 key elements which I would like to spell out. One is notice requirements. If it's called privacy notice, okay. And second one is consent management. Okay, as we just discussed, on 13 November 2026, Government of India is forcing that every organization can have the service of a consent manager. So here consent management is for any data usage, we need to take the consent of an individual. Here you and me, we are called as data principals. Any individual whose data is going to be processed either at a bank or in a health insurance firm or at any place, okay, in a hospital, whatever. So they need to take our consent. For suppose if you see any LIC application or in a bank form, there are multiple rules and regulations. The application form is going to be very big, and lastly they will provide one small box and then say, "Ma'am, here sign." Sir, here ek bar sign kar lo. Matlab, we have read all the rules and regulations and we are providing our consent. Consent is acceptance. Okay. So when we provide our consent, legally we are liable, accountable, and responsible, along with the data fiduciary, the guy who is processing our data. So here consent is we are providing acceptance and then we are adhering to the law. So if at all those people will violate and misuse, and they try to sell our data, they try to misuse our data, or they'll play with the data where data breach is going to happen, data theft is going to happen, data loss is going to happen, then ultimately we are going to be the victims. So for every activity, we need to provide the consent. Without customer or consumer or our consent, they cannot process the data. So that is where consent management will come into picture. And here I would like to add another point is, especially for adults, this is fine. But as per the Act, wherever a kid or student or child who is below 18 years of age, if their data is processed at a school or at a bank or as a nominee, as a father is going to provide acceptance, then parents' consent is mandate. Now we'll get a question. So for suppose the boy or girl is the orphan, and how he is going to be. So if there were no parents, then guardian consent is mandate as per the Act. So parent or guardian's consent is mandate to process the child or kid or student data. Okay. Then third one is breach reporting. If any sort of, as we just know, we have discussed, any sort of data loss, data theft, or data breach happens, how a data breach is going to be managed in an organization. So the breach management followed by investigation, followed by remedial actions, corrective and preventive actions need to be established in the organization. So for all these, organizations should have a policy, procedure, a register, and they need to monitor continuous basis. And then security safeguards. So what sort of security controls are in place to avoid data theft or data breach? And how we are going to handle the incidents, how incident management is going to be handled. So all these things will come into picture. Then data retention. So in an organization, for suppose in a bank or insurance company, all of our details need to be managed or maintained for 10 years. That is their policy. Every organization will define a policy. So as per the Act, the data retention timelines were not defined in the Act. But for a very large organization, like a very big bank, okay, like SBA or Union Bank or any major bank, okay, where the volume of that data and the sensitivity of the data is very high, okay, then it is called significant data fiduciary. So there we need to maintain the data for 7 years, okay, that is defined. And then governance mechanism. So how we are going to address all sorts of complaints from the customers? So grievance redressal. Okay, different mechanisms are there in every organization. Like apart from grievance redressal, ombudsman. Yeah, there are multiple ways and means. Mail, chat, or phones, telephone communication. So there are different ways and means to establish the complaint and grievance redressal. So these are the rules.
Watch the full video on our website. Click the link in the description to get started.